Hello and welcome to the Yellow Block on the TalkSport Fan Network. And for the very first time, we are live, taking you right up to transfer deadline at 11 p.m. I am joined by a host of exciting guests this evening, including a certain posh legend. So stay tuned for that. And as we're live, you get to see our faces for the first time. Although, to be fair, I fully accept that does sound more like a threat than an advantage of being live. But by being live, it means you guys can interact with us too. You can interact with us live on X, you can interact with us live on YouTube, and you can interact with us live on Facebook. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know how you think the window's gone for us. And of course, if there is any late breaking news, which it appears there may be some imminent, we'll bring that to you as it happens. Let's go.
Talk Sport.
It's in! Peterborough United closing in on the League One playoffs.
Here we go then. I am Tim White for the evening. I've even got my tie in tribute to Mr. White himself and everything. It's very exciting. And joining me for this first segment, I promised you a posh legend, right? So with that in mind, former BBC Cambridgeshire presenter Mr. Sam Edwards is here. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hi. Do I call you Tim or Jim? Or
whatever you prefer. So I mean, to be fair, it's just nice for you not to call me, nasty names for a change, if I'm honest. Because what people don't see about Sam Edwards is that when the microphone is off, he's brutal. He's
potty mouth.
Absolutely, yeah. He's the I wouldn't go as far as saying bully, but he's the instigator of all banter within the Yellow Block group chat. Don't worry, I do also have a posh legend of the playing variety up my sleeve soon as well. Stay tuned for that. He will be joining us very shortly. I'm also delighted to welcome another Yellow Block host, Mr. On the Fence himself. It's Nathan Brown. Hello, so how are you?
I'm very, very well, Tim. How are you?
I'm okay. I understand you've just got back from football, where you described yourself as the Tom Nichols of Seven-a-Side, I believe.
Yes. Profligate in front of goal, definitely, yeah.
You did score one, so that's one more than Nichols has managed this season. Now, I have teased already, but we are shortly going to be joined by a certain posh legend who knows all about deadline day, so stay tuned for that. And later on, we're going to be joined by a host of people. So we've got the font of football knowledge himself, Gab Sutton from the EFL Debate podcast, as well as Billy from the, wait for it, Be Sotted Brentford pod, best named football podcast, I believe, in the country. We'll be talking all things about our new loan signing, and of course, a certain Ivan Toney. And if that wasn't enough, I've also got the usual gang spread out across the evening, including Top Knot, Craig, and Rob. Now, if there is any last-minute news, we'll bring it to you live alongside any rumours. We've even got our ticker along the bottom in true deadline day style. And we also got a roving reporter in the field. So we've currently got Jared in KFC car park. I mean, I don't actually know if that's true, but if I'm honest, it's probably quite likely, isn't it? Let's be honest. Now, the most important guest this evening is you guys. We wanted to toy and try with this idea of going live. So we want to hear from you. What's your summary of the window so far? Do you expect any last-minute moves? And would you say it's been a successful window for Posh? There was a lot of pressure put on this window. Let us know. And also let us know where you are watching from. We'll obviously shout out the most obscure places that we can find as well. Just quickly before we start, Posh Polls put out an interesting poll this morning. Said it's deadline day. Will Posh do any business with 4 options? Sing a player, which I'm assuming was sign a player, sell a player, sign and sell a player, or nothing will happen. Overwhelmingly, Posh fans voted that we will sign a player. And technically, we have to say, Sam, it was true. The news started positively today with a certain Mr. Steer returning to the club, all but 2 days after he left.
Yeah, bit of an odd one, this, isn't it? It's what's changed, because he wanted first team football, something Darren Ferguson couldn't promise, and then suddenly he's come back, change of heart. So whether the player hasn't had any offers and wants to come back, whether that was not quite the right line in the first place, remains to be seen. But I think it's good news. He's a solid keeper. He's done a good job for us already. So interesting competition for places in that space, but wasn't necessarily the one I think we were expecting, 2 days ago. So very, very interesting indeed. And I can see actually, Tim, as well. Just to go off topic for a second. It looks like you've paid family members, have you, to drop comments in the chat about how much they like it? I mean, the Marry Me one probably isn't a family member, but yeah, you're getting a lot of fan mail early on. And you're muted as well, so that's a real error. Yeah.
Fair, and this is host of the season and stuff like that. Although, whilst we're talking about audio, Sam, whatever audio changes you made before we came on, you sound like you're in a fish tank in the nicest possible way. So who knows what's happening there? This is live podcast production for the first time. Nathan, the Jed Steer transfer in. I mean, this is great news. Possibly the most posh type signing in terms of letting a player go and then suddenly getting him back 2 days later that we could imagine. Feel a little bit for Bilo. Now, obviously, we're running out of time. But do we think that there will be movement, maybe Tally going out, or do you think we will have all three?
No, I thought Tally will go out on loan, but obviously we've not got too much longer of the window, so who knows really. But yeah, I think with Steer coming in, it's experience really, and I think there's nothing wrong with Bila Kapic. I think he's been fantastic for us. And obviously, I think Darren sort of put the point out there that he wanted them to compete for that spot if Steer was going to stay. Obviously, he's had a change of heart and thought, maybe he is up for that kind of battle. And I wouldn't be surprised if Steer probably is the starting goalkeeper for the rest of the season. I think it's a really, really good signing. It sort of bolsters that back four, back five. And it's really, really good news. So yeah, it's fantastic that he's staying with us.
It is, and it's obviously it was strange the whole saga. I know me and the lads that were on this weekend just gone talked about Steer going and how Fergie seemed frustrated by the whole process. I mean, it was never really left or sold to us that the door was still open for Steer to come back. It all seemed very final. What do you think's happened behind the scenes? Do you think it's a case of maybe Darren's gone to Darren and said, "I need this signing"? Or, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, do you think they saw the game on Tuesday night and went, actually, yeah, maybe we do need Steer back if we're going to achieve our goals this season?
I don't think it's that, because they know what Bila Kapic is capable of and they've seen him play for half a season. So I don't think it would be that. It probably is a case of just getting some knocking some heads together and them coming to a decision where they thought actually it makes sense to keep Steer here. It's a 6-month deal. I'm sure they've come to some sort of arrangement where it's mutually beneficial for both, and it makes sense. And like I say, maybe experience in the building is something that they've just considered and thought, yeah, that's probably the best route to go down. We've in previous years had largely inexperienced goalkeepers, perhaps, and we've seen what a difference of a really, really, really good keeper like Bursic, for instance, can do for your sort of chances for promotion. So yeah, with Steer in, and I'm not saying anything against Bila Kapic because I think he has been very, very good for us and he's not really put a foot wrong largely. I just think the experience is really, really going to be positive for us.
Yeah, and I suppose it's along the lines with what Devon's put there, as he injured himself again, or have we loaned out the other keeper? My understanding, Sam, is that we do still have all three in the building. Whether or not that will change, I've not seen anything in terms of rumour mill, in terms of whether Tally is going. But I mean, Blackmore's back as well at some point. You do have to wonder if we're kind of a bit top heavy with goalkeepers.
Yeah, you would say so, wouldn't you? At the moment. So it'd be interesting to see if anything happens, or as Dev says, it was one thought that crossed my mind when I saw it earlier. Has Bila Kapic, injured himself, or maybe still not recovered? So, and that's obviously forced Posh's hand with getting Steer back. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Posh play that one. We don't normally, we're not normally flush with goalkeepers really in that regard, are we? It's one area where we have traditionally been light, but yeah. When you were saying about Bila Kapic or Tally, I was thinking maybe I had missed something today, but that's because I've had a busy day at work, as I'm sure we all have. And then I looked down at the bottom and saw some of those rumours that were coming in. I thought I was really behind on the news that Edwards has gone to Crystal Palace. But yes, it's please everyone do not take that bottom bar as anything other than jovial. with a
Yes,
mixture of reality.
surprise. It could freak you out. Although, interesting one coming along the bottom there, we do need to talk about Nathan, because this is kind of sparked into life in the last, I would say, 20 minutes or so. And I do feel if there's going to be any drama between now and 11, it's probably going to be that Mason Clark one. The rumours that he's potentially going to Coventry seem to be gaining a little bit of traction, potentially being loaned back to the club until the end of the season. Now, personally, I'm not sure if this is a disaster. We still get him for the season, and let's be honest, he would probably go in the summer anyway. So is it a disaster if we get the money for him now, providing it allows us to sign a right back? What's your thoughts on that? And just while you answer, I do apologise, it's incredibly unprofessional. I just need to get a drink, so talk amongst yourselves. I can still hear you.
Sure. I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing that we are getting the money in and he is going to be sort of staying with us. But I think it's that sort of maybe that negative feeling that you're going to get at the end of a transfer window where you know a player is going to be leaving in 6 months' time. And a player of his quality, I mean, I've seen it sort of bandied about that I've just seen Tim's in his shorts.
He didn't need a drink at all, Nathan, did he? Let's be honest.
No, he didn't. I swear that was a gag, Tim. If that wasn't, then that's just pretty. To go back to what I was saying,
Sorry, I'm back now. Apologies.
He's a player that I think would very much suit us in the Championship as well. He very much, I think, would be a sort of Siriki Dembele type player where he is, such a talisman for us, and it would be a shame to lose a player like that. For a Championship season, if we're there, this isn't a signed, sealed, delivered situation. I'm trying to get the height of Tim shorts out of my head. But yes, that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I thought it was a valid opinion. I'm not sure quite why you're doubting yourself. Are you right there, Sam? You look like you're having
Guys, have we ever had a sort of live cardiac arrest on the show? Tim, can you come round?
Yes, I'll talk you through what to do. Benjamin Beebe's made a good point there. One thing for sure, I don't think Kyoso's coming back now, but you never know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Kyoso, I feel like, has been the theme of this. But Sam, I suppose the whole EMT thing, we'll see how that plays out. We went into this window putting a lot of pressure on it, and it was very much around. Thanks, JD. It was very much around the fact that we need to not lose anyone. Yes, we all wanted Kyoso back, but it was more around not losing the likes of EMC, Poku, Kipianu, those kind of the players, ironically, that are being rumoured with other clubs now. So if we don't get Kyoso, if nothing else happens between now and 11 o'clock, do we still think it's a success?
What if Mason Clark does go and then nothing else happens?
If he comes back, I suppose we were saying about how we need to not lose anyone this window ultimately.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if it does stay like that, because so many fans have been talking about, right, we're going to get money in for Toney, or we're going to get money in for Edwards, and it doesn't look like Toney's going. I've got that on fairly good grounds that Toney's not going anywhere, and is Edwards going anywhere? So Posh maybe do need to make a bit of money, and Mason Clark is out of contract in summer of 2025. So at the end of the season, he will automatically go onto the transfer list anyway. 12 months ago, we know reduces value of players. So, if Posh can get him back on loan, I think he's the kind of player that won't give any less effort for doing that. It's interesting, isn't it? Andy Turner at the Coventry Telegraph is talking about this now, and a lot of Coventry fans are replying and saying, what's in it for us? Our rivals are signing Premier League players, and we're going for a League One player and loaning him back, so we won't even see him play this season. So it's an interesting one from Coventry, but the understanding, I think, out there is that Norwich were also in for him, but wouldn't promise that loan back option, and Coventry would, and that's what they needed to set themselves apart. So it does look like it's gathering momentum that Mason Clark is going to go. Whether that's one of the reasons we got Ola Kigby in from Brentford, that might now start to be stacking up. Obviously, we know Poku hasn't featured recently either through injury. So, interesting to see how it all aligns. It is funny, isn't it, how we just wind ourselves up into an absolute fury on deadline day, and then we're all here for it.
We are, and it felt a bit since the sort of EMC rumour started to gain traction. And let's be honest, it came from an account that doesn't have any credibility. Who knows? But it feels like certain rumours get taken and some don't. I've started to get nervous about how this last couple of hours is going to play out. More so because I don't think, if AMC does go to Coventry, I don't think that's a disaster in itself, like I say, in terms of him coming back until the summer, because realistically we're probably going to lose him then anyway. It's more whether or not we've got enough time then to use that money to bring players in. I'm fully aware, at the same time, Darragh is up on Twitter at the moment, so there might be news coming through whilst we're talking, and I'm fully expecting something to happen between now and 11. We know that the Posh marketing team is still at work, which in itself is a little bit of a suggestion that something might be happening. So we will see. JD says, were there any rumours? There were rumours about Ricky leaving earlier. Is there anything in that at all? I believe they were true, JD, but I understand he missed the bus, much like everything else that he tried. No, that's bitchy. That was unnecessary, wasn't it? Sorry, Nathan. I know you're a fan. I don't know, is the honest answer. The fact that they were linked with Ricky and are now being linked with EMC, I guess they want some sort of tricky winger. I don't know. Nathan, for you, is it? Obviously, we've got Olakabi in. Looks like a decent player. Do you think that's enough alongside Steer in terms of coming in? There is still that big hole in the right back, of course, but do you feel like there's enough in the building?
Yeah, there is that glaring gap at right back, and yeah, if it were me, that would be a sort of area that I'd have targeted. Maybe a left back as well, although I have sort of seen that Fergie has suggested that they might want to use Critchlow there potentially. So yeah, I think the right back would be the position that you'd want to bring someone in. And I know that we've sort of brought in the Brentford lad, which will be really, really good for sort of some backup on the wings. I think that makes logical sense. But yeah, it seems to be that sort of glaring right back position that needs filling, which I wouldn't be surprised if something does happen before the end of the window, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's the transfer deadline day rumour mill does seem to gain a little bit more in terms of traction. I've seen Kiprianu mentioned as well today, Sam, in terms of players that might potentially be going out the door. There's a few linked coming in. I know Todd Kane has been linked quite heavily, which actually would make relative sense. Free agent, relatively local lad, decent enough player, experienced, I guess. If we were to bring somebody in for you, Sam, now would it be that right back position, or would it be purely depend on who goes where and if we do lose anyone else?
Yeah, obviously a bit of that as well, but I think for every Posh fan, it has to be the right back area, doesn't it? We've looked noticeably more blunt down the right hand side with no Poku and no Kioso. So yes, I think that's what Posh need to do. It was interesting, wasn't it, that some fans were thinking about when Ogbeta went to Bolton. Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we do that? Of course, Ogbeta hasn't played, has he, since he got injured for Posh back in April of last year, since he got that quad injury. So he's gone on loan from Swansea to Bolton. Fans thinking that's one we should have been in with. Maybe we were, but Harrison Burrows, to be fair to him, has shown that we don't really need that at left back. I saw a stat that he's created the most chances in League One this season, 60 of them from left back. So he's doing a phenomenal job in that regard. I know there have been questions at times, but he's doing incredibly well to adapt to that. So I do think it's that right back area and what we might do there. Obviously, everyone's been so focused on Kioso, so we'll, obviously time will tell, but. Yeah, that's the area. If we get Mason Clark back on loan, and we don't lose Edwards, then right back is the one area for me now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Sam. Obviously, viewers can see the breaking news on the bottom there, so we'll try and get some more substance to that as soon as we can, because I know that we're all incredibly concerned about what Ross County are up to north of the border. That's our producer Danny's sick sense of humour, but we're all here for it. And Harry Potter, Nathan, the other thing I was just going to speak to you about in terms of, me and the other lads at the weekend mentioned about whether or not we're talking about squad depth and kind of sort of trying to look for areas where we can improve that depth. And I talked about the striker position. I feel like potentially we need one more there. It looks as though JCH is staying, so that gives us JCH, Wintersill and Ricky, of course, up front. Do you think that's enough? And I don't just mean in terms of numbers. Do you think that's enough in terms of quality?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Tim Salt and Pepper. Yes, yeah, I think ultimately you've got a League One Golden Boot winner for a start that, you know, is still going to be in that squad. You've then got Ricky, who just suits the way that we play and just, you know, runs teams into the ground, which I think, yeah, like I say, suits how we play. And then Mothersill just seems to slowly but surely start to sort of be showing some form and showing, you know, the reason that we signed him and the reason that, you know, he was, you know, in a Premier League youth academy. So I think, yeah, I think we're in a good position when it comes to sort of scoring goals and that sort of attacking side of it. But it's, you know, as Sam's mentioned and as we've mentioned before, it's that sort of defensive area that needs, you know, maybe a little bit of reinforcement just to make sure that we've got that squad depth. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be worried about us sort of scoring goals going forward. I think, yeah, we're you know, comfortably there. But you know, when it comes to the sort of defensive positions, that would be an area that I think we're definitely not sort of fully firing in.
So we've got Top Knot on Spaces duty, and he's just messaged me to say that Dara's just said no further incomings tonight. Now we know that Dara sometimes has a habit of saying one thing and then later on something else happening. If we take that as gospel, Sam, no incomings. He's not said anything about outgoings. I don't want to get too dramatic, but no incomings. Let's say EMC does go. Do we then get into disaster territory? And second to that question, Olakabi, who we brought in, I mean, I said to you guys in our group chat, looked very much like a replacement to me rather than squad depth. I can't imagine a player of his quality has come in to play second fiddle to Poku or EMC.
No, exactly. And, you know, I was speaking to someone about Olakigbe and Brentford, and they were saying how actually he's a real talent. He's absolutely amazing. And he's come on, hasn't he, got some Premier League appearances and probably needs a bit of toughening up, but he's really highly rated down at Brentford. And sort of an element of surprise, really, to see him go and not get some more Premier League sub appearances. And therefore, you think, well, if he's going to go anywhere, maybe to the Championship. So, yes, you would think the reason, you know, he's come to Posh to top end of League One, know what they do with young players, and get that. All the signs are pointing to Mason Clark, yes, being sold, but coming straight back. So, you know, apparently Dara's also said that we're not going to lose any of our talent. They'll be in the team on Saturday. Well, of course, that's absolutely true if Mason Clark goes and gets loaned back. So I know when it comes to transfer windows, he can be very calculated with his language and how you interpret that. So, you know, if you read between the lines. So, yes, I mean, if the words have been, there will be no incomings tonight, then my natural head goes to, okay, well, maybe there will in the morning then, if they're a free agent, or if it's done tonight but not announced till tomorrow morning. So, yeah, no better than just to take that face value, really. So we'll see what happens.
It's almost like, Sam, you've been around the Posh management hierarchy for too long. I mean, with that in mind, with your experience with this club, what's your gut instinct saying at the moment?
Well, I would never rule anything out, but obviously we're in a different position financially, aren't we? So we have to make it work. And I think we've not seen much movement in the market at all because we've not seen those big transfers at the top and then trickling down. There's an interesting article posted the other day about how you've not had that unlocking, and what you're probably going to see now with the new rules in place that Everton have been hit with, Forest as well, is that you have maybe 1 year of busy action and 2 years of quiet, and that's maybe what we're seeing now. So that's perhaps why we haven't had that trickling down effect. So and that unlocking of the whole sliding door scenario. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily rule anything out from Posh's perspective. I mean, they're trying to be quite strong on the fact Kyoso isn't coming back. We've obviously worked ourselves into a state of mild obsession, partly because of how much energy Kyoso gave as a lone player and having the armband, which is a very unusual situation. So we've kind of, we fall hard, don't we, for a player at Posh. We did it for Bursic, we did it for Kyoso, we did it for the German keeper. Was it Ben? I forgot his name. Yeah. We did it for Better. So we do like to do this to ourselves, don't we, as a Posh fan base?
We do. Quote from Darren now on Twitter. There's no deal for Peter Kyoso. We tried to buy, we tried to loan, we did our best. We tried to do everything. He's ruled out a deadline day move for Rotherham's Peter Kyoso. I mean, he will be aware, as will Darren, that right back position is one, even if we stick with Katonga, is one that we need some depth in. So I wonder, Nathan, if I saw you nodding when I mentioned Todd Kane, I wonder if that's the player that's going to come in.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that was mentioned, I thought, I'm fairly sure he's like a God Manchester lad, I think. I'm fairly sure he grew up around there and played around that kind of area. So it would make sense, especially if he's from here. I'm fairly sure he's a free agent as well. But, if I recall, he's quite injury prone and has had some issues with injuries before. But, if we're looking at some right back cover and maybe Katonga will be the starting player, then there's a logic there. And I think, with a free agent as well, it can be, a 6-month deal, 12-month, however many months they want to do that for. And, it logically just, plugs that gap until the summer where maybe we can do something more permanent or, more long term. But yeah, that would be what I seem to be expecting purely from what I've heard.
Yeah, and we had a comment in from Devon that came up on the screen there. And nothing changes. We haven't done awful business, as we put in the youngster from Brentford and Steer today. But I do have a feeling we still have a player up our sleeve. I mean, to be fair, Devon makes a good point, Sam. I suppose on the face of it, we've not lost anyone, and that was our main concern. We've brought in what appears to be a really good talent from Brentford, and of course, we've now got a keeper that all of us would have put as our starting number one. So I guess on that side of things, it looks pretty good. I wonder why we're so nervous, because is it just because we know this club and the way it works?
Yeah, I'm not really that bothered, to be honest, by what plays out now, because I think we're already hitting way above where we thought we'd be. If the absolute worst happens and we trickle down the league a bit, then everyone was saying we're going to be sort of 12th or worse. So actually sitting where we're sitting, obviously, it's got our hopes up, and we want Posh to kick on, and I'm sure they will have that that real drive to do so. But at the end of the day, if you as a club as Posh, in the situation we are in financially, we need to make money. So it means you will sell Mason Clark now rather than in the summer. And so if you can loan him back, then actually that's not bad at all. But yes, I suppose I'm actually in a different camp where I do worry where it leaves us if we don't sell Edwards, if we don't get the money for Toney. What does that mean for us and the sustainability of the club? That's actually, I guess, where my head's at right now.
Yeah. Of course, we talked a lot about Edwards coming into this window. JCH as well was always a done deal. It's now looking like he's going to be here a year longer than I think most of us expected. And as you mentioned there, it looks like Toney's staying at Brentford. We have, of course, got Brentford on later, or Brentford podcast on later, so we'll ask them if there's anything happening or they've got any transfer to rumours. But I do wonder if there was players needed to leave before we could bring players in potentially. And the other player, Sam, I just wanted to mention was Sariki, who is at Sheffield United, is who Rotherham were looking to bring in on loan. This is a right back. There's rumours that we've now tried to hijack that deal, whether that's out of spite because they wouldn't let us have Kyoso, I don't know. Potentially a right back coming in there. I mean, again, I suppose it's him or Todd Kane. Todd Kane's obviously a little bit more experienced. So there do seem to be rumours that there might be a right back on the bus on their way to Posh at the moment.
Yeah, possibly. But what do you think we do if we don't get one? How do we line up? We know Knight can play there, but you're not going to disrupt Knight and Edwards in the middle, are you? Katongo, an option. We're light though, aren't we? If we get any injuries, we're not going to change formation. So yeah, be interesting to see how that position plays out. It's definitely the one I think on a lot of Posh fans' minds at the moment.
Yeah, and one out, I guess we'll just cover this one quickly. Nathan, I'll throw this to you. So as Craig Francis put there, is Tishy the worst Posh signing? I mean, I feel like that's maybe a stretch, but he was recalled from his loan at Fleetwood. Just second to that as well, whilst we're talking Fleetwood, Jack Marriott has also moved on today from Fleetwood to Wrexham. So he's living out his Disney dream. Fair play to him. Tishy, though, is being recalled from Fleetwood, gone to Boreham Wood. I mean, I think Craig's maybe being a bit harsh. Do you think that's a bit unfair, perhaps, to call him the worst signing?
Completely, because he's a lad who obviously came in, I think it was last January, and probably got 10, 15 minutes here or there. That's not enough really for him to logically actually show what he's about. I don't think he got any start, so he had very, very little opportunity to sort of showcase his talent, and ultimately these loans haven't worked out. and he's now at Boreham Wood, and I really, really hope that he does go off and score plenty of goals there and kickstart his career again, because I don't think he's done anything wrong. I think it's just a sort of an element of the situation that he happened to be in. You're behind a JCH who's obviously a goal scoring machine, and he just wasn't able to get into the side. And when he did get 10, 15 minutes here or there, it's not easy to affect a game in that amount of time. So I think it's just unfortunate, really. But I certainly wouldn't call him the worst signing, because I don't really think he's done necessarily anything wrong. I think it's just a situation, to be honest.
Straight swap Clark Harris for Alfie May from Stuart. I don't know, would Alfie May fit into this team? I don't know. The whole Clark Harris deal, Sam, obviously we had the whole drama with Bristol Rovers. Yeah, but actually that's a good point, Pete. Big X. No, he's not the worst. He's clearly the best signing that we've ever had. But anyway, sorry, Sam, I got distracted. It's JCH. Obviously, we had the whole issue with Bristol Rovers in the summer. Now we've got rumours that he rejected Charlton on personal terms, so he stays unless something happens in the last hour and a half. He stays at the club, goes for free in the summer. Is this? I mean, where's your thoughts on JCH? This feels like a saga that's gone on way too long.
It definitely is that, and I do think that, we obviously, it was so frustrating, wasn't it? Probably for Posh, probably for fans, probably for Bristol Rovers, what happened in the summer. And Posh have missed out on money there. They've missed out on potential money now with Charlton. So I am left feeling a little bit sorry for Johnson Clark Harris. And then I do think back to the Sheffield Wednesday second leg performance. But yeah, he's obviously in a position that he doesn't want to be in now. So it's all become a bit of a farce and drawn out, that situation. So and who would have thought, as Posh fans, that we'd be sitting here on the last day of the January transfer window in February, and we've still got Edwards, we've still got Clark Harris. I don't think any of us would have really thought that. And just to go back to Shimanga, the reason why he isn't the worst signing in Posh history is because he actually scored one of the penalties in the shootout against Sheffield Wednesday when others didn't. So on that alone, he stood up when we needed him to.
It's quite a low bar to not be the worst striker, the worst signing in.
It is a low bar, Tim. I was in Sheffield over the weekend, and I was in a museum, and there was a sign hanging down, and it said Sheffield Blitz, and I thought, oh, that happened to us in May.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it is a low bar, but he scored that penalty. So there you go. He'll be remembered for that.
He will. Posh has been in touch, which is ironic, really. That's a great name. And a really good point, Nathan, just quickly, because we're going to grab a quick break because these shorts are way too tight. The JCH still being here potentially looks at financial fair play. He's a big chunk of our wage bill. Do you think that's... I mean, Dara has said that they tried to get PK back. It just wasn't happening. Do you think it is anything to do with JCH?
I'd imagine so. I mean, we are, as Sam has mentioned a few times now, we are under financial constraints where, we can't always splash the cash unless we had a big player move on. And I suspect it is that case. I think maybe early in the window they thought if we can move JCH on, then, that frees up a lot of funds there for us to then be able to give wages to a player like Kyoso, who I imagine would command a reasonable fee and also would command a reasonable wage. So I think, it very much January, I think, is always a balancing act between incomings and outgoings and what you can do with, salary cap and that kind of thing. So it's just, again, it's a situation that unfortunately hasn't gone our way from that point of view. But, that is the January transfer window. We have done some business. We have brought, 2 players in. I know technically one was already in the club, but, we've still made those moves and we tried to move players out and it hasn't necessarily gone our way. So that's just the January transfer window for you. It's ups and downs, peaks and troughs. Things go your way, things don't, and ultimately that's just the market for you.
Fair enough. Well, we will take a quick break whilst I go and change out of these way too tight shorts and see if I can find a certain Posh legend that might be hiding in one of my cupboards. We'll be a few minutes. Stay right there. We will be
Talk Sport.
It's in! Peterborough United closing in on the League One playoffs.
Oh, I think I killed my computer there. I don't know if that was the same for everybody else, but all of a sudden it appeared I went on to dial-up. I don't know. Apologies, a quick break. I needed to change. I'm not going to lie. I was struggling in those shorts, all for a gag. Nathan, Sam, thank you very much for staying with me. Whilst this is going to sound really strange, whilst I was changing my trousers there, I happened to come across a certain posh legend as well. It gives me incredible pleasure to welcome Big X. No, it's not. I'm joking. It's not. I do apologise there. It's better than Big X. I would like to welcome the absolute icon that is Mr. Craig Mackail-Smith. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Very well.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Is that your Christmas tree behind you?
No, it looks like it in a reflection. No, it's not.
I genuinely thought you still got your Christmas, which, I mean, we're not going to judge. If you only have your Christmas tree up, Craig, then you crack on. But it does look like a tree. Transfer deadline day, Craig. I mean, this is stressful for fans, and we were just talking about how actually we've maybe had quite a good window. What are they like for players?
It's enjoyable if you're involved in it, but yeah, they can be distracting. I think sometimes, obviously, depending on how the team's doing. It could be a good thing, and obviously at the moment the team's doing so well. Obviously, there's lots of clubs interested in the players, so you want to transfer to the window to shut as quick as possible, really.
So do we. Do you have I mean, obviously, I'm sure agents and stuff will tell you if there's interest before it, of course, gets into the public domain. But do you wake up on deadline day knowing if you're still going to be at that club at the end of the day, or can it happen that quick? Can people wake up deadline day and get a phone call and say, you need to get on the train to wherever it might be?
Yeah, it can be instant. You could just be at home chilling out, and all of a sudden you can get a phone call saying you've got to be here at this time to get the deal done. So there is no. Sometimes like there might be kind of your agent giving you information and telling you the club's interested, and sometimes it can literally just be out of the blue. So you just got to be prepared, whatever way it goes.
Yeah, of course, when you joined Posh, that was quite late in the January transfer window. How much before that? What sort of duration was there before that? In terms of you had the rumour that Posh were interested, or was it quite quick?
I had a kind of bit of an idea of what was going on beforehand, so there wasn't too much surprise in that. I knew the kind of the interest. And it was just kind of waiting to see how that panned out, kind of just carry on playing what I was doing, and hopefully that would kind of come to fruition. But sometimes it can literally be, you can get a phone call a few minutes, and then you've got to get on the train, or you've got to jump in the car, and you've got to get somewhere. So it's obviously the last few hours of deadline day is always hectic and mad.
And we were all a lot younger when you signed for Posh. Some of us didn't have grey hair at the time. But what was the process like when you signed for Posh? Who met you? Who introduced you? Showed you around the club? What was it like when you first got to London Road?
It was good. Obviously, I met Barry. He was like one of the first people that I met. I met him kind of previous to joining the club as well, so I had an understanding of what he was like. And then obviously you meet the manager, and then you go in and you meet the players, and you kind of just try and settle in as quick as you can. Obviously, I knew Aaron because I'd played against him, and I knew Boydie because I'd played against him. So that kind of settled the nerves a little bit. But it was quite daunting going into a league club, and kind of being prepared to hopefully do well.
Yeah, Aaron and Boydie, they were right players, weren't they? Actually, the three of you probably would have worked quite well together, really.
In another life.
Yeah, probably should have tried that. Sam, obviously, we've got nothing but good memories of Craig. In fact, that's the shirt that you've got now. You've disappeared off the bottom of the screen, but yeah, that's a Mackail-Smith shirt there. If ever I saw it. Sam, your memories of Craig, obviously from your press side, I suppose that everyone's got a unique perspective, but what's your kind of overriding memory of Craig joining the club?
Yeah, well, mainly as a fan, I think. I think I was doing a bit of the commentary when you came back, Craig, from Luton on loan. in that spell. But yeah, I mean, memories as a fan, just incredible the way that obviously, the three of you turned Posh around really and turned us into, that back-to-back promotion. But obviously, I think the favourite memory's got to be the playoff final, hasn't it? And the sort of celebration, and I'm sure that's one you play out every day. But it must be, it's so thank you for coming on. It's great to have you here. One thing I wanted to ask was about, when you came into Posh in that 2007 from Dagenham and Redbridge, and that they're obviously, they've got a bit about them, they're making those signings. That must have been so incredibly exciting to think about what could be achieved. Obviously, that's how it panned out. So we look back on it with even more excitement. But at the time, did you feel like you were joining a club who were potentially about to do something special?
Yeah, I think so. Like as you said, they brought in Boydie and Aaron, who was kind of two main players in non-league like at that time. So you could see like they what they were trying to do. Obviously, they brought in Darren as well, who was just kind of come out of his playing days, was a young manager. So they were kind of going through that young kind of like almost inexperienced players, but with a bit of naivety, a bit of drive, a bit of hunger to kind of prove themselves and push forward. And obviously I was there kind of 13 games until the end of that season, and then you had other players out of non-league come in. I think Charlie Lee came in at that point in time. I think maybe Russell Martin and a few other players maybe around then. And you had you had some experience as well. I think Dean Keats came in. I think Chris Westwood was in. So you could see they were building a young squad to compete, but they also brought in some really experienced players of the league as well. So it was really exciting because I think we all knew what we were capable of, but we didn't realise how well we would all gel together and what we achieve.
Yeah,
those names are just dropping. Those names, Tim, just some of the memories. Oh, sorry. One other thing. Those names you just reeled off. Thinking about that squad, do you reckon you beat the current team? How do you reckon you do?
I always think about this whenever I come to the games and I watch the games. I think we'd be wide open. We'd probably concede about 6 or 7, and we'd probably score about 7 or 8. So, like for me, when I watch it, it's obviously the boys are unbelievable technically on the ball. Darren's got them playing some great football. But for me, I just look at it and think, flipping how they play so much around the back, and I'd absolutely love centre of halves to have just played like that. When I was playing, they see me coming, they just boot it. Now it's like they consistently play it to the goalie and stuff. And I'd have loved to have been playing it kind of around this time, because I think I probably would have got a hatful of goals from those opportunities. But it'd be close. The team's been outstanding. Obviously, it's a young squad and very similar to how we were. I think they've galvanised around each other last season. Sheffield Wednesday was a big blow, and I think the club have been amazing with how they've adjusted and how the team have built themselves and gone on from strength to strength.
There's one player in particular I want to talk to you about, Craig, and Elsie just popped the comment along the lines of where I was going there. They say, any chance you can give Ricky-Jade Jones some tips on one-on-ones? Now, Ricky-Jade Jones has split this pod several times. When I say split the pod, it's really me against everyone else. I feel like and actually we mentioned you on the last pod, because I was saying that it is possible to have a player that creates runs off the ball to create movement for others, which Ricky does very well, but can also finish, which of course was your domain. You could do both of those things. So I wonder, as a striker and as an out-and-out striker who knows where that goal is, what's your thoughts on Ricky-Jade Jones and his progression to this point?
I think he's done well. I think he's come in for a lot of criticism. I think over the last few years, he's kind of been in and out. Obviously, he got JCH up front, which he's obviously been amazing over the last few years with the amount of goals he scores. So you've got to it's hard to kind of push him out of the team. And when you come in for Ricky, you've got to perform instantly. And he's still young. He's still learning the game. He's still learning about like what he brings to the team, like what he's good at. And I think this season he's started to find a bit more form. I think he's started to find a bit of confidence. I think having a young squad around him has probably helped. I think he's had older experienced heads maybe previously, which probably put a bit more pressure on him. Whereas I think being in a younger squad, I think he's he's one of the lads. He's involved. I think he feels included in that team. And I think when I've watched him, I think he's done well. There's always room for improvement. There's always more that he can be doing. Whether he's working on those things off the training pitch, I don't know. But I definitely feel he's improved from what I've seen, and hopefully he will carry on doing that.
Just before I throw it to Nathan, I suppose, just on the back of that, do you know, and you can be honest, of course you can, but do you feel like he is destined for bigger things, or do you feel like he's kind of plateaued to the point that maybe this is the level that he's at?
It's very difficult to say. Like, unless he plays at those levels consistently, you can't really. I don't think you can tell. I think he's got all the attributes. He's quick. He's strong. As you said, he probably can work on his finishing, which ultimately I think would bring him more goals, which would maybe allow him to play at a higher level. But it's all down to him at the end of the day. That he needs to see what he needs to work on, and he needs to be doing it on the training pitch, and hopefully for him that would allow him to then play higher up the leagues.
Yeah, go on, Nick. I'll throw over to you there.
Yeah, so a question I guess I've always wanted to ask any of the sort of posh players from old would be, what is it like to sort of be managed by Fergie day to day? You know, none of us really have an understanding of what that's actually like. I mean, I've met the man a few times. You know, there's definitely an aura about him, but what is it actually like to be managed under him? You know, what's the day to day like? How does he manage you? Does he pull you aside? You know, basically just how does he deal with you, I guess?
It might be different now. Like I've gone in and watched a few training sessions, and he stands on the sideline and watches what's going on, and obviously then steps in here and there when he needs to. When we were there, he would join in training. He'd be joining in the five-a-sides. He'd be joining in the keep balls, and he'd be joining in. And same with Rooster. They'd both be involved. So they were very they were in it with us. So I don't know how whether he got a better view of training when he was in training with us, or he gets a better view standing out on the sideline. But he's very fair. He's a fantastic manager. You can look at what he's done at Peterborough, the players he helped develop. He's got something special, as you say. He's always fair. He was always like, if you're doing well, you'd know about it, and if you weren't doing well, you'd know about it too. Which is what you want from a manager. You want to know if you're doing well. You want to be praised for it, because we've all got egos. And if you're doing okay and we're not doing what he expects, then you're going to get it, and you've got to take that. And I think he's fair that if you put the work in, you get your opportunity.
There's no doubt that he's found his success at this level, isn't he? He's found that winning formula. Craig, if you're happy to stay with us, we've got some more questions we'd like to throw at you, and anyone that is watching, listening, throw your comments in. We'll get or throw your questions in. We'll get as many as we can through to Craig. We are unfortunately going to lose one of our first outgoings of the evening, Mr. Sam Edwards. I believe your Lecky meter has reached its peak, and I understand you are leaving us at this point. Any idea where you're moving on to?
Just watching you.
Oh, okay. I'll go put the shorts back on. Is that all?
I did just. I think Craig, I saw you wince a little bit when Nathan said "posh player of old." That looked like it hurt a bit. You look exactly the same as Jared was just saying in our group chat. This shirt, it feels like 2 minutes since you were last wearing it and banging in goals. I guess does it a bit of hit of nostalgia when you see old posh shirts that you played in?
Yeah, massive. Like as you said, it literally is a blink of an eye and it's over. And it's trying to convey that to players and young lads who are trying to make their way in the game. It's like you might be 21, 22 and you'll blink and you'll be 36, 37 and you'll be out the other side of it. And football moves so fast that sometimes you can be forgotten. So I do miss it, and obviously seeing the old shirts. I think I scored a few goals against Plymouth in that shirt, and I've got all my shirts like hung up at home and stuff. So I keep them with pride. It seems a long career, you say 10, 12 years or whatever. But it isn't. It literally flies by. So I do appreciate every moment I had, and I do miss it when I'm there at the games. I feel like I could get my boots and stick them back on and get out there, but. I've got to let it go and move on.
Yeah, we'd be quite happy for you too as well, Craig. To be fair, we've got that one more goal to go, isn't it? So it's, yeah, I feel like we can. I feel like we could probably get you back on. Sam, thank you for everything. You've set the bar high for hosts this evening. So I thank you very much, Mr. Edwards, for your time as always. Humble Sam always looks when he's getting a compliment. In place of Sam, though, we do have another signing. I'm delighted to welcome Gab Sutton from the EFL debate, a gentleman who I spend far too much time talking about to Posh. So I figured I would reverse roles this evening and get a neutrals perspective. Gabs, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Tim. You've got me signed up on deadline day.
I know. I was with big bucks. You've used our entire budget. To be in fact, as it is, we're not able to offer Craig anything at this point, apart from our kind of well wishes, because it's all gone on your transfer, Gabs. But no, I was keen to get you on because I feel like at times like this, where we're all panicking about players leaving and panicking about who we're going to lose, it's kind of nice to get a bit of a neutral perspective. And you are at the top of the show. I introduced you as the font of all Football League knowledge. You have an incredible knowledge of every club, it feels like, in the EFL, to the point if I threw a name at you, you'd tell me what position they play, how many goals they've scored, who they went to school with, what their dog's name is. And so I feel like you're really well placed to kind of give a perception of this Posh team at the moment. How do you see this squad?
Well, I see the first 11 to be incredibly strong, and I think I was actually looking through the signing Olakagbe, the lad you signed from Brentford. I was looking through, I think that's probably a good addition because you've maybe been a little bit fortunate. Maybe the sports science that's maybe been improved over the last couple of years has been a factor behind this, but you've been quite fortunate that I think Joel Randall, Ephraim Mason-Clark and Tommy Poku have started about, I think the number's something like 71 games out of a possible 80 odd between them. And I think that sort of consistency has been massive. And you have to admire how they've stayed fresh. But I think bringing in another option certainly helps with that. And really, the question is, can you keep that best 11 in place? And I think keeping hold of Ronnie Edwards, which... Sorry, I've said that because I don't want to jinx anything, but hopefully you can keep hold of him in the next hour. I think that's going to make a huge difference. And then, can you get a bit lucky / be good at sports sciencey / hopefully no one does a horror challenge against some of these players in the second half of the season because it's a great first 11, and if you can keep them fit and fresh for the remainder, then you're certainly going to be a threat to Portsmouth.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to use Portsmouth as our biggest kind of competitor.
Yeah, Bolton, I think, are just on a different level in terms of depth. I don't think you're catching them personally.
I mean, they're buying players for fun this window, aren't they? But it's I suppose that's the size of the clubs, maybe, I don't know. But I know that when I've been on the EFL debate a few times, I've talked about the importance of January. I think I said it way back in like October, and how it was important that we didn't lose anyone. Now, there's rumours kind of gaining a little bit of traction before we came on air that Mason-Clark was off to Coventry, but with a loan back until the summer. Whether or not that's going to be the case, we'll wait and see. Again, obviously, being on here, I'm relying on other people to throw me information, so apologies if it seems like I'm distracted. If that does happen, he would still be our player. So I guess on the face of it, it's not really a disaster. We've still got that right back issue. And as you correctly say, we've still got an issue around squad depth. Do
you mind me asking, actually, how's it's, I want to say Joel Katonga, is it? I might have got the surname wrong.
Joel Katonga, yeah.
What's his form been like lately?
So it's difficult because he's filling a big hole with Peter Kioso, and he works so well with Poku that obviously we've lost that natural connection there. Don't think he's a bad player, but he's a centre-back, and he's playing right back at the moment. He's kind of that square peg round hole situation. So it's a difficult one, I think, with Katonga and that entire right side, if I'm honest, at the moment, to be fair. But I guess, it's interesting. You feel like Bolton are a step above, so it's between us and Portsmouth, with the window being as it is in terms of relatively uneventful. Obviously, we've got Jed Steer back in as well today. Do you think that makes us favourites over Pompey for that other automatic?
What a killer question that is. I think Portsmouth have had a really good end to the window. They've signed Tom McIntyre from Reading. They signed Owen Moxon from Carlisle and Callum Lang from Wigan. I think those are all good signings that definitely improve their depth. I think if you really pushed me for a second place team, I probably would edge towards Portsmouth. But I probably enjoyed watching Peterborough play as much as anyone this season, especially that attacking quartet that we've often talked and waxed lyrical about when you've come on this podcast.
Yeah.
I suppose the question for me would be, is Jonson Clark-Harris going to leave?
No, it looks like he's staying. So, yeah, and he's out of contract in the summer. So ultimately, we'll go for free. Obviously, he's had 2 windows where it looks like he's going first of all to Bristol Rovers in the summer, and this window to Charlton. For whatever reason, neither has happened. So yeah, it looks like he's stopping.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're kind of hoping, I suppose, Jed Jones stays fit because he seems to be the one that's best facilitate the style. And yeah, I kind of come back to it. Like, if this 11 can maintain their peak performance levels for the rest of the season, then great. I guess my question is, like, in an ideal world, I would have wanted a few more signings like Ola Kigbe, who you've got on loan from Brentford, where you just give yourself another option, even if it's someone who can play a couple of positions, or you've got a bit of flexibility to move 1 or 2 players around. But just I remember the promotion winning side in 2021. And it felt like you had a really tight-knit group of about 15 or 16 players. And it feels about like this season's side, it is very much, you are kind of relying on that first 11. So, yeah, that's what I'm mindful of, really.
Yeah, and it's a great answer, Gab. I'm not gonna lie, I was completely distracted by the fact that it looks like his partner's just in the background there doing a photo shoot. Which I'll be honest, I wondered what was happening, and I'm all for it.
He's got a burglar in his house.
Yes, you imagine that. Deadline, big signing, taking down the Christmas tree in the it's interesting what you say, Gab. But just to I suppose just to kind of wrap up, and I always ask this to neutrals. As a neutral, irrespective of this current squad, what's your view of Peterborough as a club as a whole? And the reason I say that is we get so invested in the club that we often put ourselves as a bigger club than we are, and sometimes we need that bit of a reality check. Are Peterborough a League One team or a Championship team?
Oh, how would I say this? I would say historically, I'm not an expert on history, as you can sort of see, but I would probably say historically Peterborough are a League One club. But feel free for anyone of different generation to sort of correct me on that. But I would say about a League One club historically. And then I think the work that Darren McAnthony's done has meant that there has been a bit more expectation at Peterborough, and mid-table in League One probably feels a bit more like a failure, if you like. So yeah, that's where I think Peterborough are.
Fair enough. So, I mean, it's brave, Gab. So I won't lie. You've come on and, lower League One club that Pompey are going to beat us to the automatics.
I know.
I admire your honesty and your confidence. It's a little bit worrying because your football knowledge is second to none. So the fact that you're saying these things is concerning me slightly. But in any case, it's always nice, I think, to get that kind of neutral perspective on where we're at as a club. So I appreciate your time, Gabs. Thank you very much. Hopefully it'll be a nice quiet hour for Posh now, and there won't be a lot happening. Just one quick question I did want to ask you as well, as our fond of footballing knowledge. Which League One team, just very quickly, do you think has had the best January transfer window?
Well, that's a great question. I think Bolton again. I think it was difficult to improve their squad because it was already very strong. But I think they've answered any of my sort of remaining doubts. But I would say, do you know what? I actually think Carlisle have really improved their squad. I think they've made a lot of excellent signings. They've signed Georgie Kelly from Rotherham, which again, he's someone who's played in the Championship and won promotion from this level before. Luke Armstrong. They've signed Harrison Neal, who's on loan at Barrow last season. So I feel like Carlisle have really improved their squad, and they've given themselves an outside chance that I probably wouldn't have given them without this sort of window. So yeah, maybe Carlisle actually.
Perfect. I'll take that as a good answer because you didn't pick one of our promotion rivals as well. And look, Nigel's agreeing with you there as well. Gabs, thank you very much for your time. I do really appreciate you popping on and giving us a neutral perspective. Thank you very much.
Legend, thanks, and all the best of the Posh for the rest of the season. Cheers.
Thank you. Well, we're going to finish third now, isn't it? And spend time in League One where we we'll win the playoffs. We've good history there. So yeah, fine. Cheers, Gabs. Cool. A couple more of our regular hosts to bring into the stage as well. Dan Topnut Weldon joins us from the Northwest, and we've also got Craig. Good evening, Dan.
Evening, chaps. Pleasure, and nice to meet you, Craig.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, Dan fanboy, I love it. And Craig as well. Good evening, sir.
How we doing? You all right?
Yeah, well, Jude. No, I like that. It was good. It's a nice adding a bit of masculinity to the pod. I appreciate that. Just one for you, Craig. Just very quickly. Ronnie Edwards is a name that's come up a few times already tonight. I'm stealing a question that Dan threw, actually, if I'm honest at this point. Why do you think he's not yet gone to a club further up the divisions? Are they just waiting for that development at Posh? What's kind of stopping that happening, do you think?
Which Craig are you going to?
Sorry, I've got two Craigs now, haven't I? Sorry, Craig Mackail-Smith. Actually, we'll call you CMS. Let's go with that.
So what's stopping his development going?
What's stopping Edwards? Yeah, why hasn't that transfer happened yet in terms of moving on to a bigger club?
I think people are just still watching him. He's still very, very young. I think they want to see how he develops over a whole season. Obviously, he equipped himself very well in the Championship. I think they want to see how he does, see how he performs in a whole season. Obviously, Posh are very hard negotiators with the transfer fee, so maybe there are teams that have come in and got some serious big money offers they need to put in to take him. But I think his development, I think people would probably see in just how he's developing. Like he's looking fantastic from the performances I've seen. But I think they want to let him to get a whole season. Once he's had a whole season, I think they'll feel more comfortable to invest in him in the summer.
Again, you've heard it here first from Craig Mackail-Smith. Ronnie Edwards goes in the summer for huge amounts of money. That's an exclusive right there. Nathan, I know that you are leaving us shortly. I understand you had something else you just wanted to throw to someone else.
Yeah, I guess the curiosity that I had was, this current squad that we have is incredibly talented, and obviously the side that you were in was equally, if not more, talented. I guess, what player would you take from your side that you played in, whether that be Boydie or Tomlin or yourself or Aaron, which player would you pluck from that side and then drop into this current side to try and really, really, improve the side, I guess?
That's a really good one. It's difficult. I think obviously I don't know if I love Boydie, and obviously he was fantastic. But at the moment you've got two wingers who are on absolute fire. We've got pace and power and goals, creativity, assists. Again, I don't know whether a number 10 would suit. So whether that would be me or Aaron as an out-and-out goal scorer, maybe that's something that's kind of missing at the moment. Obviously, you got JCH, but again, he's not really involved with the way the team perform. Ricky-Jade Jones he's finding his feet slowly. But I think maybe just a natural goal scorer to kind of finish maybe more of the chances, or be a bit more clinical in front of goal. Maybe something that would help the team and improve the team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect, Nathan. Thank you so much for your time this evening as well. I know that you've given up your evening, having just played 7-a-side as well, which was very much appreciated.
We could have done with Craig up front, definitely.
From the sounds of it, absolutely, with your performance. But But thanks, Nathan. I really appreciate your time this evening. Thanking you.
Cheers.
Dan Topnut Weldon, Gabs there said that Bolton are a league above and are going to run away with the Championship, as in the title, I should say. I'm sure that's uneasy listening for a man who lives in Bolton.
Yeah, I don't think they're a league above at all. They've got great strikers, I don't deny that. Squad depth is obviously good as well. And that's key in this league. I think, as soon as you've got 2 or 3 players on the bench that can, challenge for those first team places on a regular basis, you're off to a winner already. Unfortunately, Posh don't have that. We don't have the budget to have that. We're very sort of stuck to. We've got 11 players, maybe 12 that have a chance of starting every week, and then from the looks of it on the pitch, Garrett doesn't really seem to trust his bench very often. But we could be wrong, and he could just be very opposed to making transfers. I think Bolton will go up. I think they probably will end up winning the league, if not, second place. But I don't think they'll run away with it in the Championship. I don't think they'll go up and do what Ipswich have done this season and absolutely tear things up. I think they'll probably be in the relegation fight or mid-table at best. But of course, that's what we were told when we went up, and we got bullied. So who knows?
Yeah, it just didn't happen, did it? Stuart Watkin, CMS, you still got your boots and shin pads, pal. You're playing this Saturday. It goes back to what we were saying there, isn't it? Around we need that out-and-out striker. Craig is in. Craig, Yellow Block Craig. What's your summary of the window been? It felt a little bit disappointing at the start of the evening. It feels actually like now we've assessed it, it's probably what we hoped for at the start of January.
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I actually kind of thought this would play out this way, that we wouldn't actually have that much activity. I think as Posh fans, we all kind of get a little bit carried away that we're going to make this £1 million signing every window, and it never transpires. And I think that there's nothing wrong with it. I think you look at what the lads have achieved in the last sort of 6 months, and to be fair, if you'd have asked us this at the start of the season where we're placed, none of us would have argued it. We'd have all taken it. I do believe that there's room for improvement in the forward line. I listened to what Craig said earlier regarding Ricky, and I think he's made valid points. But I would like to put to Craig what he feels with regards Ricky playing with somebody else up front, because the one thing that I would say Ricky doesn't have naturally in his game is the ability to... He's strong, don't get me wrong, but he's strong when he's combative for the ball that's played behind him, not necessarily so much in the air. Do you think he would benefit from having a target man that could allow him to take that pressure off? I mentioned this on the last pod that I was on, and it'd just be interesting to get your opinion on that.
Yes and no. I think it's difficult. I think obviously Ricky loves the space and running into the gaps, and say I don't think his hold up play is conducive for him to be in a target man. I think obviously the wingers, they probably take a bit of space away. If you put another centre forward in there, I think it would cram it up in that sense. You'd have too many players in there if you want Mason Clark and Poku running off the wings, and then you've got a centre forward dropping in, and then you've got Ricky making a run. I think there's too much going on. I think it's just developing him as a player. Like when I came in, I was very raw, very similar to Ricky. My finishing was okay. I needed to learn how to hold the ball up better. And I think that's some of the things maybe he needs to implement into his game is maybe being a bit more of a platform while utilising his pace and stuff off the shoulder as well. But as I said previously, I think he's come on leaps and bounds. I think he's finding his feet, he's finding his confidence. And to say there's a few extra bits and tweaks here and there that he can improve, but he's still such a young lad that he has time to do that.
What age, Craig, though, did you find that you kind of came in? I mean, they always say obviously late 20s is when you find your peak normally, because obviously you've played it so long, but obviously Ricky's been playing for a number of seasons. So do you think that he should come into his peak earlier because he started much earlier than he did? I appreciate he's been hindered by injuries, but again, it'd just be something I'd like to gauge your thoughts on, if that's all right.
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, he came in, I think he was like 17, and he's. I think everyone probably expected more of him, but sometimes obviously that brings its own pressure. You have squads who, if you have experienced players in them, bring their own pressures to Ricky. So it's just, I think he's found his squad. I think he's found his team that allow him to be him, allow him to progress and grow. I think you're always going to find teams that suit you and allow you to be who you need to be as a player, and have people around you that allow you to get the best out of you. And I think, as I said, I think he's found that with this squad. I think they're young, they're vibrant, they're excitable, they've obviously spend a lot of time together, which I think gives him more confidence. And I think because he has now more confidence, players have more confidence in him to give him the ball and put him into areas. And I think that will breed further and further. And as I said, hopefully hopefully he might be doing it, I don't know, but obviously adding extra bits into his game, whether he's looking at that and looking at what else he needs to work on. I think that was again, for myself, I knew I had to work on my finishing, and I knew I had to work on my hold-up play. I had a great conversation with Gary Johnson, who battered me once at like half-time, and I had to go and speak to him and find out why he was shouting at me, because I'd scored, I think I was like 14 goals before Christmas, and he told me that I wasn't holding the ball up enough. I wasn't bringing people into play enough. I was scoring goals, but I wasn't contributing to the team. So I needed that to learn that I needed to improve and get better. And I'm hoping that people are kind of saying to him that these are the extra bits that you need to do to push yourself within the team and obviously give you opportunity to come play at a higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it'd be so nice just to be a fly on the wall and hear how they're developing, Ricky. I feel like you've so we're quite polarised over Ricky on this pod, and I feel like in a way you've been able to almost side with everybody, acknowledging his weaknesses, focusing on his strengths. It was, it's a cracking answer. We are going to have a break shortly, but I mean, you must miss all of this drama, Craig, around football. You mentioned about how you wish you could still be back out there. How are you feeling these days now? What's life look like for you since football has finished?
It's been tough, to be honest. Like I've been in it for so long to kind of come out of it. I didn't realise how difficult it would be. Like I kind of was institutionalised in it, and my days were planned for me. I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going. I knew where I had to be. I could literally just turn up and do what I need to do. And now it's like it's responsibility on me to kind of dictate my days, find my structure. So I'm learning I'm learning about that, how to be more paper efficient and admin and stuff that I've never had to kind of really focus on. But I've started to do striker coaching. So on a Tuesday in Peterborough, just across from the training ground, I do like a technical Tuesday with kids to help develop like their basic skills. And then on a Friday at Neverton Football Club, I do like striker. So it's called Finishing Friday. So it's all for strikers and learning like the basics. But then I have older kids kind of up to 18 who are learning about the movement and different like, aspects. And ultimately, I want to kind of work with semi-pros and pros. So I'm just trying to find out who's interested in doing it. I'm just kind of putting it out there because it's very niche. It's not. It's always baffled me how there is not a striker coach, because it's such an important position on the pitch. So for me, I feel like I've gathered a lot of knowledge, and there's lots of great technical stuff out there with data analysis and video analysis. So it's something I want to do and want to implement and help so young kids improve, but also help like pros kind of find their peak and find that like 1% that will get them like either moves or get them more goals.
Yeah, it's a surprise there's no specific attacking coach. Obviously, we have goalkeeping coaches, set-piece coaches. I know that AFC Wimbledon used to have a coach specifically to look after substitutes and get them ready for the game and how they focus their mentality. It's strange that we ignore that one position that ultimately can make the difference. You're right, I suppose, be kind of general coaching. Do you feel like that's something that the club, as in Posh, could benefit from? Eventually just bringing in someone with that experience like yourself. So for example, if we take Ricky, you've been in that situation, you're a similar type of player, you could maybe give him that sort of guidance and that mentorship. Do you feel like that's potentially is that kind of the end goal, that kind of position?
Yeah, I think I'd like to work with clubs more probably on an individual basis. I think is the aim, but I think you're right. I think there is a need for a striker coach, striker mentor, whatever how you want to call it, is because I think it's such a mentally draining position. Like you're judged on goals. Like you're not judged on like your all-round play. It's how many goals you score, and that can be mentally draining, because when you're on a rich vein of form, it's great and everyone's really enjoying it. And all of a sudden you hit a dry patch and people are saying you're rubbish and you're struggling and all these different things. So it's a roller coaster of emotions. It is really tough. And I think having people around you who've maybe been in that position and who understand the highs and lows, maybe understand different aspects of how to get around goal droughts and different bits and pieces, like this is going through one-on-ones, which I had to learn to do. I think it's beneficial to players to have those kinds of people around.
Yeah, I certainly feel like that. It's alien to me that that's not a a position at a professional club anyway. You know, you have dietitians and all that kind of stuff. You feel like that kind of would be something that would be there. If anyone's listening and they did want to get in touch, if they did feel like they could benefit from what you're doing, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Probably through my social media, so my Instagram or my Twitter and Facebook. If they can DM me, send me a message, and then I'll get in contact with them and then obviously go over the process of what they'd want to achieve and how we'd go about it.
Fair enough. And Dan, just before we take a quick break before our final section, because we are rapidly working our way to 11, which is great news for us as Poshies. If we were to have a five-a-side team, Dan, I'm pretty sure you would be a striker. I reckon maybe we could get Craig involved with working alongside you.
Oh, yeah, well, to be honest, I'd benefit from it greatly because I'm not the greatest at football. Don't know if you could tell by my size, but I'm a bit of a unit. Let's sort of talk about where we are in the season right now. Obviously, coming into February 2011, coming into February, we were sort of 6th and 7th in the table, somewhere like that, and we were coming up into the closing period. So you've been here before, Craig, where we've got our eyes on promotion. We've just got past January with minimal casualties, shall we say. What would you say if you were in the dressing room to the players right now as we approach that run-in to sort of start getting us over the line and look at the next season in the Championship?
I'd say enjoy it. I'd tell them to enjoy every moment of it. Like, there's not many times in your career that you hope that you get the opportunity to be in these positions, and there's no point in being scared about it. You might as well just embrace it, enjoy it. Like they say, they're young, they're a naive squad. They've got great enthusiasm. I wouldn't change much. I'd just say go and enjoy it. The pressure's not on them. The pressure's on the Portsmouth, the Boltons, the big teams that who were expected to be up and around there. Like Peterborough, obviously, were down and out at the end of the season because of the playoffs. Everyone wasn't expecting them to do anything and thought it might be really, really difficult. And obviously, they've proved everyone wrong. So it's now to kind of step on the gas and shove it down everyone's throat about what happened last season and finish off with promotion.
Yeah, and I'm disrupted by the breaking news along the bottom. The fact Joe Nuttall has joined Cheltenham on loan from Oldham for the rest of the season. So I feel like we should probably call it a night at that point. But as exciting as that is, just in one word, CMS, very quickly before we have that break I've talked about so many times. Do you think this Posh side will finish in the top two, yes or no?
Yes.
We'll take that. We'll take that over the neutral that came on and said absolutely no. Very quick 2-minute break. You can count them, and then we will be talking Brentford when we come back. Stay right where you are.
Talk Sport.
It's in! Peterborough United closing in on the League One playoffs.
Okay, welcome welcome back then for our final session. I just had a very, very quick look. No news, which we'll take as good news. Still no confirmation of Mason Clark going off to Coventry, so we will take that as a win. It's looking like hopefully this is going to turn out to be I guess we'd have to say a successful window. I'm quite interested, people that are watching live, I just summarise if this is a successful window, because I feel like I'm getting carried away and persuaded by people that we're talking to. Biggest signing, I guess, that we have to, I suppose Steer maybe potentially. Most exciting signing, is certainly for me, is Olakabi from Brentford. So I'm delighted to welcome Billy from the Besotted Brentford pod, blog and vlog. Good evening, Billy. How are you doing?
Not bad. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I've just got to say, Besotted is possibly the greatest name for a club-specific podcast in the country. When I saw that, it made me laugh out loud. I won't lie.
Yeah, we try to make people happy. Like I'm saying, we're very childish, so we anything we can do. To be fair, actually, we've been actually going for about 30 years. We started in 1990,
wow.
So yeah, we started as a fanzine in 1990, and as you do, you morph into the modern age. So
the modern era, yeah. And interestingly, you join us on our very first live show. So as much as we've been going 6 years, we finally took the plunge and hit the live button. So exciting times for us.
It's funny you should say that, actually, because we actually did a live podcast as well. I remember when we were in the Championship as well, and you get really excited for transfer window, transfer deadline day. And so we did this live podcast from the pub. We all piled down the pub, did this live podcast, and literally nothing happened. It was really difficult. You're sitting there trying to make news, and there's just nothing going on.
Nothing going on.
Hopefully you've been a little bit more excited today.
Well, no news is good news, if I'm honest, for Posh. You mentioned about your Championship season there, and I guess we need to just quickly start with the certain player that, let's say, helped you through that Championship season, a certain Ivan Toney. I've been out the loop for the last hour and a half because obviously I'm trying to balance several plates at the moment. I'm assuming Ivan Toney's still a Brentford player.
We've got half an hour to go, don't we? So, you want me to try and jinx it now, didn't you? So
we want the cash. I'm not going to lie. So, yeah.
So, well, to be fair, actually, we'll probably get more cash if we sold him in the summer. So he's probably wanted to hold off. But now at the moment now, and the good thing about, like I say, at Besotted, because we're compared to all the clubs around us in the Premier League, we're a relatively small club. So we get, lots of contacts within certain areas. And the word that we've heard from weeks is that Ivan Toney is not going to go this window unless probably somebody turns up with a wheelbarrow literally of cash and says, here you go. And that was unlikely to happen. So I don't think he's going to go, but I'm touching wood. It looks like he's going to stay. And for everything that's happening to us at the moment now, it just doesn't really make any sense for us. For him, for anybody, he wants to go to the Euros. It's better for him to go to Euros if he's playing for a team week in and week out than sitting on the bench and keeping his fingers crossed and, going to a team that might have their manager sacked in a few weeks' time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, as Posh fans, we're still obsessed with him now. Hence, this is the first thing that you and I have talked about. He's, I'll say one of, I won't say the, because we're joined by one of the greatest Posh strikers, but he's certainly one of the greatest Posh strikers that we've ever had, and kind of came out of nowhere, if I'm honest, because the season that he kind of really took off, all our kind of hopes were pinned on Mo Isa. It was, Ivan Toney was this kind of okay player that was going to play second fiddle, and then out of nowhere just became absolutely world class. And we've always championed the fact that he's going to go on and kind of play for England and make it to the big time. I guess as Brentford fans, you would kind of echo that now. But does he? I know that he's occasionally been what you could potentially argue as relatively disrespectful to the club. Where do the Brentford fans hold Ivan Toney at the moment? Close to the hearts or kind of an arm's length?
I think it's, I want to say it's split. At the end of the day, he's coming to do a job and he does a job and he does it very well. I think that there are some fans who are not particularly happy with some of the comments that he's made in the past. And also they think that probably that he could have just, when he's come out of his penance time, he should have just come out and just basically just been quiet and just gone in and just done his job and don't say anything. But, Ivan Toney does as Ivan Toney does, as we say, and he's done his interviews. He said what he has to say. We're quite philosophical with Ivan Toney. We know what he's like. We know that he's a very confident person. We know he's a very good player. He's confident within himself. our argument is that, say for example, when he came back and said, look, if a bigger club wants to come for me.
I've lost connection to London, possibly. Just while we try and get Billy back, COS, just quickly, he's hit the ground running since he came back from what was a really lengthy ban. I've put him straight in my fantasy football team, I should add as well. How much strength does that take mentally for him to come back? He's hit the ground, he scored in both the games that he's played since he come back from his suspension. That's a huge win for his mental strength, the fact that he can just kind of come straight back and start scoring again like he's not been away.
100%. It shows how mentally strong he is, that to be gone for that long, and kind of like waiting, and obviously ultimately to come in and score. I think that probably was fantastic for him to score in the first game. He comes back, just takes all the pressure off, and then he's kind of back. But to sit there and wait for the 8 months to get on that pitch, and then all the eyes on you, everyone's expecting you to come and score. And so that's where that mentality is. Everyone's expecting you to do something special. And for him to kind of take that on his shoulders and go, I'll show you I can do it. And to do it back to back. What a fantastic player he is, and what mental strength that he has to do that.
Yeah. Billy, welcome back. All you were missing there is posh legend Craig Mackail-Smith basically just backing up what you were saying there about Toney is going to go on and take over the world. And I guess the reason we've got a vested interest in that next move is because of the fact that we've got that sell-on fee. Now our chairman has played down just how much that's going to be. I guess selfishly, we kind of wanted him to go this window, and I know you don't want to hear that. But we could do with that cash. Now, there were rumours that it was going to be 100 million potentially. And as a posh fan, even a 20% sell-on fee, I mean, that's huge for the club.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't factor in as a Brentford fan, but you feel
it's a lot of money for. I mean, it's a lot of money for us. Don't forget, Ivan Toney was pretty much our record signing a few years ago. So I think we're in no qualms. Listen, we're in the Premier League, but we're just happy to be there at the moment now. And it's a bit of a weird league, to be quite honest with you, because there's all this ridiculous money flying around and all these ridiculous things happening. And honestly, it's quite bizarre. We're here enjoying it. We're upsetting a lot of people, as you would do. Clubs like Luton, us, just coming in and upsetting a lot of people, and we're just kind of getting on with it. But we're under no qualms about how much this money is going to do for us, and will do for you, and do for everybody else. And that's how clubs like us survive. And Ivan Toney, came in for 5 million. Yeah, 100 million. Probably the reason why he isn't going to get sold this window is because it is 100 million. And at the moment now, clubs and their cash flow is at how they're going to find this money in the middle of a transfer of a season. At the end of the season, you've got players coming and going, so it's different. So you've got different cash flow scenarios. I mean, we sold David Raya, as you know, last window, and we sold him. But the way we had to sell him is that we had to do this jiggery pokery to make it look like it was a loan deal, whereas we were really going to get the money because Arsenal, big old Arsenal, couldn't afford to buy him straight out hand. So we had to kind of cash flow them the situation. And there's a lot of that going on at the moment now. So we're under no qualms. But trust me, if Ivan Toney, unless he breaks his leg or something like that, and I'm going to say fingers crossed as well, I hope he doesn't do, we know that he's going to go in the summer, and he'll go for, as long as he does what he's doing at the moment now, probably similar to what we're talking about. Because if you look at, players like Richarlison, who went for 60 million, Brennan Johnson, whatever he went for, and these clubs, and it's really weird in the Premier League. They'll go to Italy or Spain, and they won't blink and sign somebody for £100 million. But the idea of signing somebody from Brentford, for 100 million, it just can't happen. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how good the player is. So luckily, we're not in the situation like we were years ago, where we sold DJ Campbell to Birmingham City for 500,000 when we were top of Division 3, because we were just desperate for that, and it just stopped us from getting promotion at the time. We're not in that situation at the moment now, so we can actually hold off until somebody comes and actually pays us what we think it's worth, which is probably quite similar to what you do with DMAC and your boys in the camp there. They hold off. They look for their price. Do you know about the story about the Ivan Toney original sale? Do you know about the story about that and the director of football, what he said? It was quite bad, actually. It's very Brentford. It was the previous window. So we sold him in the summer. but we actually came for him in the winter. And again, as Besotted, we found out quite early on, we know from our source that we'd gone in, right, we're going in for Ivan Toney. And that time we had Ollie Watkins, who was playing up front for us. So we had Ollie Watkins, and we thought, listen, we bring in up this guy Ivan Toney. So we did the research on him. We actually did a little piece on that. We thought, okay, we're going in for Ivan Toney. So we went to Peterborough and we said, like, we'd like Ivan Toney, and I think you said it's going to be £10 million. And in the end, if I believe rightly, I think you were trying to do a deal where you wanted to try and kind of sell him in the summer. And you went to our director of football. We said, look, £10 million, we want him now. Director of football went, why don't you want to sell him now? In the window, because you're going for promotion. And this is such a Brentford thing. He goes, but you've only got 10% chance of promotion, right? And he said this to I think it might be to DMAC. If it wasn't, it was to Barry Fry. And I think they were up in arms. I said, what do you mean? He goes, but you've only, and that's how Brentford operate. They're just like, this is what the odds are. This is what we was, so if we're 10% chance of promotion, we wouldn't buy a player to try and get promoted, or if we had to, we'd sell a player if we needed to. And he said it to you, and apparently you were so up in arms. You're like, right, that's it. We're not having it. We're keeping on to him. And then sort of kind of the following season, obviously you didn't quite go up. You sold him, and
played out well in the end. Yeah,
it's a bit cheeky.
It's the buy-sell club, isn't it? I suppose, wrapping up, one player that obviously we did want to chat to you about is Olakibi, who we've signed on loan from Brentford. A lot of Posh fans getting quite excited about this. Seems like quite a young flair player, good at dribbling, can play both sides as well. What do we need to know about this young winger?
Again, as Brentford, we used to have an academy, and we got rid of the academy when we were in the Championship because it was costing us a lot of money. And any time a player was any good, that basically Man United or Man City would just nick him off us. And our owner's like, listen, we've developed that player for 6 years now, and then you nicked us off us. And then what, you're going to give us, what, 100 grand? He goes, what do I need 100 grand for? So we scrapped the academy and we started this B team system, which has been really, really good for us. And what they did is that basically from 17 years old, if you could sign a full contract, there you go, you sign to our B team. And then what we'll do is that instead of playing in these under 18s or under 21s leagues, they'll go and take this team of players and they will go off to Germany, France, Scotland, and we play against games, and they'll say we play proper games. We'll go to Real Madrid, we'll go to Celtic, but then afterwards we might go down to Dundalk, or we might play a non-league side. So this has helped to sort of kind of develop players and get them playing, inverted commas, real football, but proper teams. And the B team has graduated through. We've had about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players come through into our B team, into the first team, and it's a real kind of progression path. What's happened is that since we've got promoted now, because when we're in the Championship, it's almost like it's a lot easier for players to get into the B team because of the level of football. So it's good. So you'll see these players come through, they get into the first team, and then they'll sort of kind of move with us. Since we've got into the Premier League, it's been a lot harder because obviously the standard is a lot higher and you come into the B team. So we've actually seen a lot less players actually kind of make the graduation into the first team, because in effect, what you need to do, the B team needs to bring in better players, better quality players, and so that they'll step up into the Premier League. So it's been harder. So we haven't had that many players come through. So at Besotted, we were an expert in the B team, and we flew over to Dundalk, and we actually saw the B team play against Dundalk when we were there on a Wednesday night, because we were quite excited. I mean, all the players, they knew us. We used to interview them. But at the moment now, I must admit, we don't actually know that much about the B team because it's almost like there's a big gap between them and us. However, I remember we went to the US, and this is how things have changed as well. We went to America in the summer. Brentford went on US tour, and we played in 3 cities. We played in Philly, then we played in Atlanta, we played Brighton, Atlanta, and then we played Aston Villa in Washington. And I went down to Atlanta. We're sitting inside there in the dome, and if I remember rightly, all of a sudden this kid comes on, and I'm like, who's this kid? I said, and I see him, he comes on, he starts taking a few players on, and he's like really, really confident. And I'm like, oh, he's Michael Olakibi. He's been playing for the B team. And I'm like, what? And we've actually taken him from the UK out to America and play with the first team. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought that they must think really, really highly of him. And I was really impressed, because it's one of those ones. It's almost like a bit of a Michael Owen moment. You remember? I don't remember. I mean, showing your age here, but when Michael Owen sort of kind of came into the side when he was just young, and he was fearless, and he used to take people on, and you sort of think, oh, he's quite good, isn't he? And it was really sort of kind of very much like that. So of course you do a little bit of more research into him, and basically he's an out and out winger. He's got skills, so if you look on the YouTube, if you look at his kind of videos before he signed for us, he's like a very, very skillful player. But what Brentford do is that they take these players in, we teach them to play our way of football, and we try to get them to kind of like, I hate to say man up because it sounds like, oh, you've got to man up, but, try to get him to actually play senior football and understand the sort of kind of the hard knock life of playing senior football. So that's what they've been doing. And to be fair, he's been getting some game time. He hasn't been playing sort of, hour and 2 hours, but he's been playing sort of 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, coming on. And if you see him, he's fearless. He's not like scared. He will take players on. He'll take them. He's got no problem with taking players on. I think there's a couple of games where I think he could have scored. He was quite close to not scoring. I think his position, and I'll say I think because obviously, like I said to you, I haven't seen loads of B team games. I've just seen him play for the main team. His position, I think, is a straight up winger. Well, we did inquire whether or not he plays a wing back because, as you probably don't know, Brentford have had about 3 million injuries, and in effect, all our fullbacks have been out, and we've been really struggling. So we thought maybe some of these players could step in and become a wing back player, but he's not. From what I can gather at the moment now, he's not a wing back. He is more of an out and out winger. I did also notice I was excited when he came on against one game, and then he went. And then we also had our wingers in that game already. We had at the time Brian Mbeumo, who's now injured as well. And I can't remember who was playing on the other wing, but he came on because I think we needed to get a goal. So they put him more into the middle. And I remember when he was playing there, and I was looking at him playing, and I noticed that older senior players kept on indicating, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And to me, it seemed like that it was an unfamiliar position for him, and he probably wasn't as effective in playing at the position as he normally would do. So for me, he's going to come to you. He's fast. He's direct. He's exciting. I think he's going to relish the chance at playing against players. Yes, he's going to make mistakes because he's only young and he's only played a certain amount of league football. But I think that he's going to be really exciting. Also, quite interestingly, is that traditionally I think he's a right winger, but I've actually only seen him pretty much playing on the left-hand side. And I think the reason for that is that obviously Brian Mbeumo normally plays on the right hand side, so and Mbeumo normally kind of stays and plays on, so he's coming on the left hand side, which is the side for us, which was causing us a few problems. We put players there and they didn't quite deliver. Like Keane Lewis Potter at the time wasn't quite delivering. We said because Toney was out, he's been playing through the middle. Sharda kind of was playing there sometimes, but he's got injured as well. So that's been his position for us. So it seems he's a bit multi. He could play on both sides on the wing. And also there's also the thing that he can play up front if he wanted to, but he's most definitely better as a winger.
Fair enough. Well, that sounds like we're in for an absolute treat with him. Billy, I really appreciate your time this evening. Hopefully Tony doesn't go anywhere in the last 20 minutes or for your sake, hopefully. For our sake, it would be quite nice if he did. But really appreciate your time this evening, Billy. Thank you.
Okay. And good luck for the rest of the season, everyone, the Posh fans, yeah?
And to you, mate.
Craig, it sounds like we've got the next one along the line there, another lone player that we can fall in love with. I mean, this is exciting. This is Yellow Block Craig, I should throw it out. Sorry, I forgot that there, didn't I? It sounds like he's coming to us with all the traits of a good Posh signing.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I've mentioned this before. I used to be a winger myself, so it's always an area that I'm more invested in than any other part of the team. I always look out for it. I think that's probably why I tend to give some of the players more of a hard time in those areas at the same time. But from what I've seen, and I'll be honest, I've only seen YouTube clips. What I have seen has been really, really encouraging. I can totally back up what Billy said. What he said is true. He does like to take on his fullback as well, which is great. Likes whipping a ball in. So, yeah, full steam ahead. Looking forward to it.
And Sarah, just before we let you go, it's... well, we now 20 minutes. I feel like I'm doing like some sort of like comic relief, kind of getting through trying to get through
New Year's.
We'll do a totalizer soon. It's I mean, it's looking like there's no news, which will take us as good news. You really talked about the positives of this team and where it's going and how it's in an upward trajectory. We talked a little bit about Ricky-Jade Jones. If there was another player, Ricky excluded, that you could spend some time with, just focusing on that finesse and just kind of getting that extra 1% from, who in this squad do you think would benefit the most from that? Who do you feel could kind of be used to that mentorship and kind of take that next step?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot there. Wow.
Just trying to offer your services out to
I know. I'd love to work with Mason Clark. I think like obviously he's been unbelievable this season, like what he's done with his goals, his assists, how his plays come on. So I'd love to work with him. Obviously, just maybe from an outside perspective, like seeing little bits and pieces that maybe kind of, you say, give him in the 1%. He's obviously doing great work himself, but I'd love to kind of just help him along, just give him maybe some extra little bits that he could take in. It's fantastic to watch the progress of the young team. Like they've all, you can see like how they're growing from the beginning of the season to now, how they've all grown in stature, and they've got more and more confident. They've gelled as a team, and I really think like they've got that belief that they can drive this to the end of the season.
Have you seen much of Malik Mothersill, Posh? He's a player we haven't really seen a lot of as a fan. Technically, I've been raving about him on this pod. Is he a player that you've seen much? Do you feel like there's a potential there?
No, I haven't seen too much in, to be honest. He hasn't really featured in when I've been to the games, but I've heard a lot about him. So it'd be nice to get down at some stage to see him.
See what he's about. And in general, favourite Posh memory, which one do you think about most fondly when you look back at your time?
Obviously, the player final was amazing. But the thing is, there were so many. Like when I speak to the boys, it's like the amount of games that we would lose in, and we'd come back and we'd win. And it's like the Cardiff one, we were 4-0 down and came back and drew 4-4.
Yes, I remember
and it was
that. That was great.
There was just so many amazing memories. We were all out attack. It was how many you concede, don't worry, we'll score the other end. And I can't remember who I was talking to the other week about it, and it was just saying like it didn't matter what the score was when we went in at half time. We knew once we come out to that London Road end and we got one goal, there was no stopping us. We knew we were going to win the game. We could be 3-0 down, 4-0 down, which we were sometimes, and still come back and win. So they were fantastic memories, and as I say, it goes in a blink of an eye. So they're still fresh in my head, but they're 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last time you were on. My favourite memory, or not my favourite, but one of my favourite memories of you, ironically, is nothing to do with a game where the ball was in play. We were playing at home against Notts County, and it was quite a spicy game throughout. It's that the cat making an appearance there. Yeah. It was quite a spicy game throughout, and then at the end, I can't remember what happened, but there was a spark at the full-time whistle, and there was just carnage. 22 players, subs, managers in the middle of the pitch. It was just a huge, I wouldn't say brawl, but lots of pushing and shoving. This is all going on, and then out of this big pile of people, you just walked around the back just applauding the fans. You got all this going on, and you just completely ignored it all and just focused on the fans. And I think I suppose it says a lot about your character and your personality, which is, I don't need to get involved in all of that. You were just focusing on the fans, and I feel that's, there's no doubt that you endeared yourself to the fans, and the fans would always hold you in the highest regard as part of that Holy Trinity. Do you still speak much to Aaron and Boydie?
Yeah, I text Aaron now and then. Obviously, I see his face almost every day on TV, so it's hard sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, no, he's doing so well. Like he's found where he belongs. Like his personality, like who he is, how he talks, how he comes across. He's perfect for what he's doing now. I know he's on the TV tonight. I think he's doing West Ham Bournemouth, which is an amazing achievement. Like he's to be doing Premier League games now. It's wonderful. And I saw Boydie a few months ago, and I think he's just enjoying retirement, and just I think we were talking about him managing his kids' team and how he's excited about doing that. And yeah, we try. It's difficult. You move over to different places, and your life moves on. And you have kids, and it's just very difficult to kind of keep together. But when you get back together, it's like you've never been apart. So it's lovely to kind of cross paths now and then and have a quick chat, reminisce, see how everyone's getting on, and then you get back to life again.
Well, if the three of you want to reminisce on the Yellow Block at any point, then we can certainly make that one happen. Boydie's kind of become this mysterious creature since retirement. We don't quite see so much of it. Am I right in thinking he's in property now, and that's where he focuses his time? It doesn't have anything to do with the game anymore? No,
I think he's done a few TV commentary bits and pieces, but I think he's doing his property, and I think he's just enjoying his retirement and kind of growing his hair longer and wearing some funky clothes.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know you miss it, but just kind of wrapping up. Do you really miss like Tuesday nights away at Carlisle?
Yeah. For me, everything about it was the worst thing I used to hate was pre-season. That was the one thing I didn't enjoy, was just the running in pre-season. But everything else, like you can't beat it. Like the buzz before the game, going out, playing, scoring. It's something you can't replicate, and I think that's what the difficulty is when you come out of the game. There's something that is very, very difficult to replicate. So you have to kind of try and find other avenues to give you that same buzz. So that's why I'm going into striker stuff, because I enjoy that, and I want to kind of see players improve themselves and hopefully give themselves an opportunity to be as best that they can be.
Yeah, I suppose without kind of going all psychoanalyzing, I suppose it must be nice for you you're almost kind of replaying that out through strikers that you're developing and that you're mentoring. You're seeing that success and them enjoying the game. That must be nice for you. Just remind us again then. So, what's the best way to get hold of you if it's something that somebody was interested in terms of
on social media? I say my Instagram, my Facebook and Twitter pages. They can go on there and send me a message, and then I'll get in contact with them and say hopefully work with a few people.
Perfect. Well, CMS, I can't, thank you enough for coming on and spending the evening with us. It's been uneventful in the best possible way, and we had a very in-depth answer about our new signing from Brentford as well. So that was good. Really appreciate that, and obviously say hello to your partner who did make an appearance too. Just if anyone did tune in late, that isn't a Christmas tree.
I don't even know what it is. I think it's just a reflection of a light or something.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
No worries. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers, Craig.
Okay. I've got to apologise. We've got Rob as well as our last. Sorry, I didn't give you any warning there. That was about to throw you straight in, Rob. Apologies. I know you've been sat there since like Monday waiting to join. I've been trying to balance far too much. We were worried that there wasn't going to be any news breaking, and there hasn't really. But yet somehow we've managed to fill 2 hours and still get pushed on time. Rob, it's no news window. I mean, this is good, is it? It's what we talked about. We wanted.
No news, good news. Yeah, I suppose last time I was on the pod, I sort of said, to be totally honest, I'd kind of like to get through January unscathed. And it sort of seems like that's happened with 11 minutes to go. So barring an absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, if it does happen, it's all your fault now, Rob. You know that, right? We'll get your Twitter handle up and it's all on you. I mean, it seemed just before we came on air, and I see there's a few comments talking about Mason Clark, about obviously it came through that he was potentially going to Coventry and coming back. That's not been confirmed, and Dara hasn't really given us anything. Obviously, I've not been listening to Twitter because I've been on here, but it does feel like we were all nervous and then for no reason. But then Sam Edwards, when he was on earlier, Rob was saying that he knows the way this club works, how Dara words things, and maybe tomorrow there'll be something that we didn't see come in. Do you think we're done? Do you think there will be anything else?
I mean, I caught the first bit just to see when he was on as to what Dara was saying, and he was cards very close to his chest and sort of politician answers in a sense of I'm not giving anything away whilst seeming like I'm giving stuff away. So yeah, very, very difficult to say what's actually going on. There seems to be quite a report on this quite a strong link on this Coventry setup, and one of the answers he gave was, I'm not going to get too drawn into a comment, but I did suggest that if anything happens, we're not losing anybody this transfer window. Read between the lines there, I kind of did, but how much of it's true or not, and keep hitting refresh, but not seeing anything yet.
There's nothing confirmed on any of the Twitter sites or anything, so it is all still rumours now. 10 minutes left. You'd hope something would be announced by 11, really, wouldn't you?
You'd hope so. I'm just going to go to our correspondent at KFC Car Park where Jared Farmer is. I just think he's just while he talks to me, Craig. We've got no right back other than Katongo. Does that concern you?
Yeah, I suppose it does, to be fair. It's not ideal because if something happens to Katongo, obviously, where does that leave us? But at the end of the day, we are where we are and we're going to have to go with it. You just got to hope that with the age that these lads are, that if they get battled, bruised or whatever, they'll come through it better than a seasoned pro that's got a dodgy ankle or a dodgy knee. So ultimately, the club know best, and you've got to put the trust in them. I think, it's a dangerous game, but it's one we're going to have to play now.
Yeah. Does anyone think, and I'll throw this out to those that are still with us after 2 hours as well, that we're going to struggle with squad depth? And I guess, Craig, it kind of builds on what you were saying there around not just that right back position, but you can I think the only position where we've probably got enough depth, maybe up front now with JCH staying, and maybe in the centre of midfield. Obviously, we've got Fuchs. Everywhere else, it feels like we're a little bit light.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I mean, the only thing I got posed today by a friend of mine was, if we'd have entered this window and there was an option of having Jed Steer back or Peter Chioso, and we actually...
Great question.
Yeah, we basically argued the toss over it. And for me personally, I actually wanted Jed Steer back because I still think with the players that we've got out on the field, they can do a role. I think Philo's done nothing wrong. I want to stress that. But it's that experience between the sticks and everything happening in front of him. And I think he'll give a certain level of confidence to that back line, even if it isn't the back line that we all want it to be.
Yeah, that's good. Dan, sorry, I was just distracted there. I need to there we go. I'm glad that producer Danny popped that one up. 2p worth. This format is really cool and has worked much better than I expected, given how shambolic the pod can be at times. Dan, we'll take that as a positive. I feel like I'll take that as a backhanded compliment.
Well, yeah, very backhanded. I mean, shambolic is a harsh word. Jared's not on it that often. No, I don't know if anyone's on socials, by the way, but there is some news in the transfer realm relating to Posh. Dwight Gale is now a free agent, as confirmed by Fabrizio Romano, of all people. I'd take him back at Posh in a heartbeat. Don't know about you chaps.
Rob, would you have Dwight Gale back at the club?
I would. Besides, earlier I heard from a Stoke fan, because I saw somebody else in League One was saying, he could do the job here. I think it was someone at Derby or something like that. I'd take him. And someone at Stoke who watches a lot of reserves has said he's just got no legs and a shell of the man he used to be. Yeah. In my brain, going off old school Dwight Gale, 100%. But from that comment and a few sort of back and forths with the Stoke fans, I thought maybe I'd have to view him a bit more. But as a backup, hey, look, it's better to have him than no one, I guess.
Yeah, and there's the breaking news that Jared was feeding me from KFC car park. He spotted Dwight Gale in KFC car park. He was going to go and ask him if he was signing, but was halfway through his bargain bucket at the time. Joshua Saville, can he play right back? Yeah, it's a great. I did see earlier on, Posh have been very clever with their marketing this evening. And I saw on socials that they were pushing the app earlier in the evening when everybody was talking about EMC, trying to get people to download the app. And somebody commented saying, can the app play right back? Which I thought was, I do love Posh fans. They have a great sense of humour. Does it concern you, Rob, that position? I feel like we're being harsh on Katonga here, let's not forget, but he's a centre-back, isn't he? So is it a case, like Craig said, of trust the manager and trust the process?
Yeah. I suppose that's kind of where we've got to get to. I mean, similar to what Craig said, if it was a choice of I had to pick Chioso or Steer to return, I would probably have gone for Steer, based on the fact that I think in past seasons we've had a little bit of an issue with younger goalkeepers and needing that experience to take that pressure off the back line. So, yeah, look, it would have been great for him to come back. The few games I've seen Katonga in, a bit 50-50 on whether he can play there. But Dornelli seems, the times I've seen him play there, to be able to do a shift as well. So, again, I would sort of maybe encourage that to be tried a little bit more. I know something DMAC was pushing as well.
The thing for me, I feel like Tongo makes a very good utility player. I mean, I watched him in the Blackpool away game where he played sort of like a holding midfield role. I think Collins was out injured at the time. And he was fantastic there. He played really, really well. And he dropped back when he needed to and filled the gap in defence. And he strikes me as, like you said, a very good centre-back, very good, capable central player. I just don't know whether he's got the technical ability to be able to play right back, and especially in a squad like Peterborough, where we need our right backs to be able to cross the ball, to be able to create things. We rely a lot on our full backs. I mean, look at Harrison Burrows. He's the top assister in the league. He's got more goal involvements than anybody else. And it was similar last year. So, we rely so much on our fullbacks that we would need somebody in that role to have a bit of attacking prowess. And I know that a little earlier in the window, we were linked with a Joe Ward return. Someone like Joe Ward would be fantastic in this squad. And we know he would be fantastic because he's played under Fergie in this system before.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Sure, I said Katonga's done nothing wrong, but lacks the attacking threat PK gave us. And I think it also feeds into what we said before about, I think it was yourself, Dan, I can't remember, I think it was you, Dan, about how him and Poku work well as a team. And it's not just, there's something against Katonga, they've just not got that same relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sorry, Dan, just to cut you off, because we've got the Posh Telegraph there, commentary agreed. I've got Twitter open for the first time this evening, and there's a lot of posts that are starting to come through from from handles. Sorry, I'm not too shy. From handles that aren't related to Posh in any way. There's a lot of transfer news accounts basically saying that the commentary have agreed a deal for EMC with the player set to return on loan. Does anyone know? Presumably, loans also have to be done by deadline day, right? They have to be done by 11 as well.
Yeah, you've got like the pink slip thing. So I don't know if you remember like the David De Gea saga a couple of years ago. So you've got until the window to submit a extension, which is I think a 2-hour extension just to get your paperwork done. As long as you've got the deal agreed in principle by 11 o'clock or 5-2 and you've submitted your sheet. Right. And you've got a couple of hours to sort your contracts out. But I mean, if it's not announced by 2-3 a.m., I would probably suggest it's not done.
I can't stay till then. Should we get the Brentford guy back? I can't stay until 2-3 a.m. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, Rob, I know social media, you shouldn't believe everything you see. And I know that often you get these, accounts called transfer news that have got 3 followers that just throw out random rumours. But it's been there all night. I feel like there's enough accounts that are picking this up now for this not to just be a rumour.
Yeah, I think I've got it open just to the side here. I've just had a quick look as well. And Peter O'Rourke, who's one of the very well-known correspondents, has reported it. Hundreds of thousands of followers, very well-known in the industry. Not the sort of thing that he's just chucking it out from his bedroom with a few facts attached to it. And he's now reporting that the deal has been done. Yeah. It does say the players to return on loan. But again, still nothing confirmed. I think the strange thing was earlier on the pod, on the bit of the up the Posh Spaces I caught, DMAC was on and then quickly left and said, I'll be back in 5 minutes, and never returned. So I'm guessing something's bubbling away in the background, because he'd said if something does happen, I've got to go.
So in the most frustrating of ways, we spend all evening waiting for news and talking about potential rumours, and then window comes and closes, but actually it might be a couple of hours after before the news goes through. I mean, Craig, ultimately, I said at the top of the show when this news first started to gain traction that we're likely to lose him in the summer anyway. So, if we can get some cash, I guess the only frustration is that we haven't now got time to reinvest that cash. That 3.5 million won't be there. I mean, yes, we can spend it in the summer, but will it still be there? I don't know.
It's. I think this is the biggest problem for me, that we seem to leave everything to the last minute. For the last 2 or 3 transfer windows, we seem to come down to the lastminute.com, and I don't get it right. We seem to limit our options by doing it. You look back at the Johnson Clark Harris one in the summertime, that could have been a massive change for us in regards to what we could have been doing now, and cementing obviously a promotion push. I get it, obviously it's 2 parties and both parties have got to come to an agreement, but I just wish sometimes we would bring forward our activities and we wouldn't have to worry about doing transfer shows. If I'm being honest, I'd rather get the stuff done early and move on.
and leave us in that position. Well, the clock has struck. It is 11 o'clock. Happy New Year, everybody. Matthew Morton with us. Posh resist offers for England under-20 skipper Edwards. Latest from Sky Sports News, Nick House. People have turned down several offers today for centre-back Ronnie Edwards. The England under-20 captain has been of interest to clubs in the Premier League and Championship this month. The club have also rejected Championship interest in midfielder Hector Cipriano. So, Dan, the window is closed. Feels like something's going to happen in this. It's sod door, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Feels like something's going to happen in this next hour or two. We'll hang around for a little bit just in case there's anything imminent. But I'm seeing. I mean, this is the first time I've got social media open. I'm seeing mixed reviews. If I'm honest, people saying it's a shit window. Some people saying it's an okay window. Apologies if anyone's kids are listening, by the way. It's a bad window. Other people saying it's a good window. I feel like it's a good window, even if he does go and comes back.
Yeah, look, Kyoto aside, I mean, let's sort of disregard him because he was never technically our player. I think any window as a Posh fan that you can, say you've not really lost anyone, and yes, EMC might go out, but he's coming back in as a lone player. Any window that you can say we've got pretty much the same squad is a good window for us. We are traditionally a selling club. We can't guarantee our players are going to be here at the end of every single transfer window. And so, we're still strong. We've still got, this is just as breaking news, Dwight Gale is spotted in the KFC car park outside London Road. He's not. No, we've got a strong squad. We've shown that throughout the season. We've got goalkeepers fighting for their place on the side, which is always good. Personally, it's Bilo for me, but, you can all stick by Jed Steer if you like.
What? You would pick Bilo over Jed Steer?
He's in for the Golden Glove. You can't drop a player after 8, 9, 10 clean sheets, in a season. You can't drop him. I don't understand this hate for Bilo Kapic. He made a couple of mistakes early in the season when he was finding his feet after he'd not played football in God knows how long.
I mean, it's hate. It's just realism that Steer's the better keeper out of the two.
I'm not denying that he's the better keeper, but I don't really think it was worth spending that kind of money on his wages, even if for just 5 months, when we've got Bilo there.
Yeah,
I just don't think it was worth it. But, be that by the by, we've got a good midfield. We've got more depth in attack, which is fantastic. Obviously, we've got a winger that can play on either side, according to the Brentford guy. And potentially even at wing back, which gives Burrows a little bit of depth behind him, which is needed. I think we've got a very, very good chance of kicking on now, staying in the top 3 and having a really good crack at automatic.
Owen says it's a disaster. PUFC Kingston says shit window, no right back. Mason Clark going, haven't got a long-term replacement, and only signing we've made is a keeper. Absolute rubbish.
Do we need a long-term replacement though?
Someone that finally agrees with you, Dan. And Ben Hatton, I'm happy with this window, all things considered. One thing I just want to throw to you then, Rob. Let's assume this is going to happen. And within the next couple of hours, we wake up tomorrow and find out that EMC has gone and coming back. 3.5 million. I think that's an okay fee for him.
It's okay. I'm sure there'll be a level of add-ons, as we always manage to work out from that. And how Coventry have done, certainly last season, with being on the brink of sort of getting into the Premier League. They'll have that in the back of the mind. If they do get there, the conversations around DMC playing there, I imagine there's a hefty sort of sell-on and promotion sort of bonus built into that. 3.5 up front, yeah, it's not too bad. I have heard a few people say, it's the whole thing. He's coming back for 6 months. Is he going to give his all for 6 months when he knows he's going on to something else? And then if we do go up, we've got to find that replacement. And there's a few, I suppose, negatives that could be attached to it. So there's a few questions to be asked. But yeah, at 3.5, look, it's okay. I'm sure there's a lot more to the deal than meets the eye.
Yeah, and Craig, Justin's 1972, this is on X. I know we need money, but it's crazy selling him now, even though he's coming back on loan. We need players like him if we go up. If we went up and still decided to sell him, we would have gotten more than 3.5 million up front and 5 million with add-ons that's being quoted. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. No, if I'm being honest with you, I don't. I think that's quite a good figure. I think cash in now. I think that there's also an opportunity to bring better in. I think you only have to look at the amount of players that we bring through year on year. And And I fully believe that we'll do it again and again and again. We're tried and tested at doing it. So I wouldn't be knee-jerking reaction that Ephraim Mason-Clark's not going to be no longer here. He wasn't going to be here for forever and a day more. He was always going to move on, let's face it, and good luck to the lad.
Yeah, I think £3.5 million is a decent figure. Dan, you've messaged me. Apparently, we rejected a £2.5 million bid for Hector today. Where did you see that?
It's all over Twitter. I've seen it on a couple of posts, to be honest, a couple of League One insiders, as they claim, and a couple of fans that don't know anything. Look, in this transfer game, figures are always inflated and lied about. So, for all we know, that the Ephraim Mason-Clark deal could be nowhere near 3.5 or 5, as people are reporting. And equally, the bids we've rejected for Hector Cipriano could be nowhere near 2.5 million. I know Nathan said in the past that he's not a 2 million player. I don't know what he's worth personally. I think, last season we sold Jack Taylor for, what was it, 3.5, 375, I think it was the final figure reported. I thought he was worth more than that. So for me, Hector at 2.5, I'd quite like that, but maybe he's worth a little less. Who knows? End of the day, still our player.
I actually think we've got one of the best players that's had no coverage at all, and that's Archie Collins.
Archie Collins, yeah.
Yeah, but
he's phenomenal.
He's only just signed,
I tell you what, he's gone under the radar, and thank God he has. Because I tell you what, I definitely would want him if we get into the Championship. Him over Ephraim Mason-Clark, I'd rather keep him.
Yeah, all I'm thinking now, as we go into sort of the prep period for next season, is who have Barnet got on their books that we've not? Because it always seems to work out for us after Barnet players.
The M1 channel, isn't it? Well, I mean, the thing is, I feel like we've watched a movie and they've turned the power off 10 minutes from the end, because it feels like at some point we have to go, let's go to bed, because I don't think we're going to get anything now. Ultimately, the window's gone, isn't it? So from the club's point of view, there's no rush to send this information out now. As long as the deal's done, it can wait until morning, isn't it? So I don't think anything's going to happen between now and us waking up. In a word then, Rob, successful window, yes or no?
Yes.
Craig?
No.
Interesting. Dan?
Yes.
I feel like this is a debate that is going to continue as well. I mean, that's a great way to wrap up. I've heard Barnet got this exciting young winger named Idris Kanu. So it sounds like a good lad. It sounds like he could potentially go on and achieve something. But I feel like at some point we just have to go, yeah, that's us done. We'll wait and see what we wake up to. In typical Posh fashion, it's been left, and we could stay on until 2 a.m. But I don't think we will get the news that we want. If the deal's done, it's done. If it isn't, I'm sure we will find out tomorrow. Just want to say a massive thank you to you three guys. Massive thank you to Nathan and Sam as well. You guys have really backed up this idea and added a bit of sustenance. Obviously, a huge thank you as well to Billy from the Brentford pod, and also Gab Sutton for coming on as well. Massive thank you, of course, to Craig Mackail-Smith. What an absolute gentleman he is. Big thank you to Jared. He's been sourcing guests behind the scene and doing what he can. Massive thank you to you guys who have been watching and engaging. I've loved the interactivity of a live show. I think it's really, really good. Definitely something that we will do again going forward. But I just want to give one special thanks as well to producer Danny. We don't mention him enough on this pod. He's not even a Posh fan, and he gives up all this time for free. For the 2 hours that we give up, he gives up 4. And he's frantically working behind the scenes tonight, and he doesn't even support the club. So kudos to him. He's the one that keeps us out of prison ultimately. So thank you very much, producer Danny. Some of the audio recordings he's got on his computer could land us in hot water, I'm quite sure. But no, that was the fear of doing live. But no, thank you as well, and thank you for all the lovely comments that producer Danny himself is popping up on the screen right now. So that's wonderful. This will be available to listen back to. I feel like I've run a marathon at this point. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, thank you so much to all our guests and to everyone that's listened. You will be able to listen back to this on your usual podcast platforms. Hold the phone.
Just announced.
4-year contract with Posh.
No. Ephraim Mason-Clark has completed a permanent move to Coventry City, but will be returned to Posh on a loan deal to the end of the season. Peterborough United Twitter confirmed.
All right, stand by then. There's me doing that big finish. And then in typical fashion, he has indeed. So this is now confirmed by the official Posh Twitter handle. Ephraim Mason-Clark, as Dan just said, has completed a permanent move to Coventry City, but will, in bold, return to Posh on loan until the end of the season. A couple of comments. Toby's, the top one, says, better be shit tons of money. Tiles has just done a crying face. That's going to take some digestion. Just quickly, Rob, do you still think it's a successful window?
Yeah, I do. I do still think it is. He's still here for the next 5 months, which is what we needed to do. Definitely.
Okay. So, right on cue. Wait all evening for news. And then just as we're wrapping up, there's the news that we've all been waiting for. It's almost like the club have waited for that. But hey, it is what it is. We've got to accept it. We will, of course, be digesting that news and discussing it more on the next recorded pod, which we'll get out to you as soon as we can. But listen, thank you again so much for everyone for tuning in. It's been really good fun. I've really enjoyed this. Go and get some rest. The transfer window is closed. We've made it through, I guess you'd have to say, relatively unscathed, maybe. And we're going to go up as champions. So, up the Posh.